For 87 years, one name meant law in the South Carolina Lowcountry. Murdaugh. Fathers passed it to sons. The 14th Circuit Solicitor's Office belonged to them. Justice was their business. But power leaves a shadow. And shadows, eventually, consume everything they touch. Tonight, I'm going to tell you a story about a dynasty. About murders that shocked the country. About millions stolen from the vulnerable. About a son who killed his own family to save himself. And about the day the South Carolina Supreme Court looked at the conviction, and overturned it all. I'm the Beard. And this is Bearded Stories. Let's start at the beginning, when the Murdaugh family was above the law. In 1920, Randolph Murdaugh Sr. was elected Solicitor of South Carolina's 14th Circuit. 5 counties sat under his jurisdiction: Beaufort, Colleton, Hampton, Allendale, and Jasper. Swampland and old plantations. Poverty and ancient secrets. He served until he died, 20 years later. Then his son took over. Randolph Murdaugh Jr. served for another 46 years, retiring in 1986. Then his son, Randolph Murdaugh III, took the seat. He served until 2005. 3 generations. 123 years of legal power. The Murdaugh name was synonymous with the law itself. But the real power wasn't in the solicitor's office. It was in the private law firm: Peters, Murdaugh, Parker, Elsroth, and Dietrich. Pempt. For decades, the Murdaugh family represented the largest personal injury firm in the region. They settled cases, collected millions, and lived like landed gentry. Alex Murdaugh was born into this empire. He was the grandson of a solicitor, the son of a solicitor, the heir to a dynasty. He joined PMPED and became a partner. He drove a black Mercedes. He owned 1,700 acres of hunting land called Moselle. He had a wife, Maggie, a former cheerleader and school teacher. 2 sons, Buster and Paul. The American dream, carved out of Carolina's swamp and old money. But there was another side to the Murdaugh legacy. A darker one. But the shadows around the Murdaugh family went deeper than stolen money. In 2015, 19-year-old Stephen Smith was found dead on a rural road in Hampton County. His body had been hit by a car, or so the official report said. The case was ruled a hit and run. No one was charged. The file went cold. Then, in 2021, after the murders of Maggie and Paul, SLED, the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, reopened Stephen Smith's case. They said new information had emerged during the murder investigation. Why would a double murder investigation lead back to a hit and run from 6 years earlier? That question has never been fully answered. But it added to the growing picture of a family surrounded by suspicious deaths. But before the boat crash, there was Gloria Satterfield. In February 2018, the Murdaugh's longtime housekeeper, a woman who had worked for the family for years, tripped and fell at the Moselle property. She died weeks later from her injuries. Alex Murdaugh approached her sons. He told them he felt responsible. He promised to help them file a wrongful death claim. He directed them to a lawyer. He said they would be taken care of. The sons trusted him. Why wouldn't they? He was Alex Murdaugh. The name meant something. The insurance company paid out $500,000. The sons never saw a cent. Alex Murdaugh had taken the settlement, forged documents, and deposited the money into accounts he controlled. A grieving family's compensation, stolen by the man who promised to protect them. This was not a mistake. This was a pattern. And it would not be the last time. On February 24, 2019, 19-year-old Mallory Beach went for a boat ride. The boat belonged to Alex Murdaugh. Behind the wheel was his 19-year-old son, Paul Murdaugh, drunk. 6 kids, a case of beer, and a 19-foot boat racing through Archers Creek at 2:17 in the morning. The boat hit a bridge. Mallory Beach was thrown into the water. Her body was found a week later. Paul Murdaugh was charged with boating under the influence causing death. 3 felony counts. But something strange happened. The Murdaugh family name seemed to slow the wheels of justice. Paul's case dragged on for over 2 years. The trial date kept moving. Witnesses received anonymous threats. The Beach family watched in disbelief as Paul walked free on bond, awaiting a trial that never came. Behind the scenes, Alex Murdaugh was already desperate. He had been stealing from his own law firm for years. He had been stealing from his clients. The dying, the injured, the vulnerable, he took their settlement money and spent it. By June of 2021, the CFO of PMPD had confronted Alex about nearly $800,000 in missing funds. He was cornered. A man backed into a corner will do one of 2 things. He'll surrender, or he'll burn everything down to survive. Alex Murdaugh chose to burn. But he didn't burn his law firm. He didn't burn his reputation. He burned his family. June 7, 2021. A Monday evening. Maggie Murdaugh had driven to Moselle, the family hunting estate, earlier that day. She had recently separated from Alex, living part-time in a beach house. But she came to be with her family. Paul was there too, awaiting trial for Mallory Beach's death. His court date was approaching. The pressure was mounting. Alex told investigators he visited his dying mother at the hospital and returned to Moselle around 9 p.m. He says he fell asleep on the couch. Then, at 10:07 p.m., Alex called 911. "I've been up to the house and found my wife and son shot," he said, his voice breaking. "Please hurry." When police arrived, they found Maggie Murdaugh dead outside the kennel building. She had been shot 4 times with a rifle. Twice in the head. A contact wound to the scalp. She was found near a feed room. Paul Murdaugh was inside the kennel. He had been shot twice with a shotgun. His brain matter was splattered across the concrete floor. A 12-gauge shell casing lay near his body. 2 different weapons. 2 different locations. 12-gauge shotgun for Paul. 300 blackout rifle for Maggie. Someone brought 2 guns to Moselle that night. Someone killed a mother and her son with calculated precision. Alex Murdaugh told police he was not at the scene. He said he found them after. He said he doesn't know who did it. For 18 months, Alex maintained his story. He was at his mother's house. He came home. He found the bodies. But investigators noticed something. The kennel where the murders happened had security cameras. Alex's phone data placed him at the scene 20 minutes before the 911 call. And then they found the video. A cell phone video recorded by Paul at 8:44 p.m. His father's voice is clearly heard near the kennels. Alex had lied about not being there. When confronted with this evidence at trial, Alex Murdaugh took the stand. He admitted he lied. He said he was paranoid because of the investigation into his financial crimes. He said he panicked. "I lied," he told the jury. "And I'm sorry. But why would an innocent man lie about being at the crime scene moments before his wife and son were murdered?" The prosecution had a theory: Alex Murdaugh killed his wife and son to delay the exposure of his financial crimes. A gathering storm, they called it. Paul's boat crash trial was coming. The investigation into the missing money was accelerating. Maggie was planning to leave him. He needed time. And he was willing to kill for it. 3 months after the murders, Alex Murdaugh called 911 again. This time, he said he was shot in the head on a rural road. A blue pickup truck. A stranger. He was taken to a Savannah hospital with a superficial gunshot wound. The story unraveled in 48 hours. Curtis Edward Smith, a former client of Alex's, confessed. Alex had hired him. The plan was simple: Curtis would shoot Alex in the head, kill him, and Alex's surviving son Buster would collect a $10 million life insurance payout. Curtis was supposed to be paid $50,000 for the job. He botched it. The bullet grazed Alex's skull. He survived. Alex wanted me to kill him, Curtis told investigators. He told me his son would get the insurance money. The attempted suicide by murder was not an act of despair. It was an act of desperation, a man who had been caught stealing millions, who had murdered his family, trying to give his remaining child a future with $10 million of blood money. Most stories end with a guilty verdict. Justice is served. The villain goes to prison. The case is closed. But this story is not like most stories. Because the system that convicted Alex Murdaugh was the same system that had protected his family for 100 years. And that system had one more card to play. For 6 weeks in early 2023, the world watched the Murdaugh trial. Court TV broadcast every moment. True crime podcasts dedicated entire seasons. Netflix and HBO began planning documentaries. The prosecution called 96 witnesses. They built a case brick by brick. There was the kennel video, the phone recording that put Alex at the murder scene minutes before the shooting, contradicting his own account. There was the phone data, showing Alex's location pinging near the kennels when he claimed to be sleeping. There was the testimony about his financial crimes, showing a man drowning in debt, desperate to stop a gathering storm of exposure. And there was the most damning piece of evidence, the lie itself. Alex Murdaugh admitted under oath that he had lied to police. He admitted he was at the kennels. He admitted he had been stealing from clients for years. "You lied about being at the scene of a murder where your wife and son were killed," the prosecutor said. "Yes, I did," Alex replied. "Why should the jury believe anything you say?" The question hung in the air like smoke. The defense argued that the evidence was all circumstantial. No one saw Alex pull the trigger. No murder weapon was found. No DNA linked him to the shootings. They argued that the investigation was sloppy and rushed, that Maggie and Paul might have been killed by enemies of the Murdaugh family, people with grudges from a century of prosecutions. But the jury didn't buy it. On March 2, 2023, after less than 3 hours of deliberation, they returned with a verdict on all 4 counts. Guilty of 2 counts of murder. Guilty of 2 counts of possession of a weapon during a violent crime. The judge sentenced Alex to 2 consecutive life sentences without parole. Becky Hill was the Culleton County Clerk of Court. She was present throughout Alex Murdaugh's murder trial. She had a front-row seat to the biggest case in South Carolina history. And she wanted to be famous. After the trial, Becky Hill wrote a tell-all book about the Murdaugh case. She gave interviews. She appeared on podcasts. She became a minor celebrity in the true crime world. But during the trial, something else was happening. Multiple jurors later came forward. They said Becky Hill had spoken to them about the case, during the trial. She told them to watch Murdaugh closely when he testified. She told them not to be fooled by the defense. She said the case shouldn't take long once deliberation started. Watch his actions, she told one juror. Watch him closely. That juror said those comments made it seem like he was already guilty. In May 2025, Becky Hill was arrested. Charges: obstruction of justice, perjury, and misconduct. She was accused of leaking sealed evidence to the media, lying under oath about it, and using her position to promote her book. She pleaded guilty in December 2025. She was sentenced to 3 years of probation. But the damage was done. The financial crimes were staggering in their scope. For over a decade, Alex Murdaugh stole from everyone who trusted him. He stole from the family of his housekeeper, $500,000 from a wrongful death settlement. He stole from a quadriplegic man named Hakeem Pinkney, who had been paralyzed in a car accident. The settlement meant to care for him for life disappeared into Murdaugh's accounts. He stole from the family of a disabled man named Tony Satterfield, no relation to Gloria, who had been in a catastrophic car crash. His brother was his legal guardian. Both were betrayed. He stole from his own law firm, siphoning millions through fake fees and forged documents. He used his position as a partner, his authority as a Murdaugh, to take money that was never his. And he was only caught because he killed his wife and son. Without the murder investigation, Alex Murdaugh might never have been exposed. The financial schemes might have continued for years. The victims might never have known. The murders brought attention. The attention brought scrutiny. The scrutiny brought the truth. Alex Murdaugh pleaded guilty to 27 federal charges and 14 state charges of financial crimes. He was sentenced to 27 years in state prison and 40 years in federal prison. He will die there, whether he's guilty of murder or not. Alex Murdaugh's attorneys appealed his murder conviction. They argued that Becky Hill's interference had poisoned the jury. That his right to a fair trial had been violated. The state argued the opposite, the evidence was overwhelming. Murdaugh was guilty beyond any doubt. The clerk's comments were minor. On February 11, 2026, the 5 justices of the South Carolina Supreme Court heard oral arguments. They were skeptical of the state's position. They asked pointed questions about the rogue clerk and the fairness of the trial. On May 13, 2026, they issued their ruling. In a unanimous decision, 5-0, the South Carolina Supreme Court overturned Alex Murdaugh's murder convictions. Prejudice is presumed from Hill's comments, the court wrote. The state failed to overcome this presumption. They said Becky Hill placed her fingers on the scales of justice. They ordered a new trial. On June 29, 2026, just 4 days ago, Alex Murdaugh appeared in court for the first time since his conviction was overturned. He walked into the Lexington County Courthouse in a gray suit. He looked thinner. Older. His hair had gone gray. The judge set a new trial date, April 5, 2027. Attorney General Alan Wilson said his office will retry Murdaugh for the murders. We will aggressively seek to convict him again, Wilson told reporters. But the defense has new evidence. New witnesses. New theories about third parties with motives to kill Maggie and Paul. And there's a problem. How do you find 12 jurors who haven't heard about the most famous murder case in South Carolina? Alex's attorneys aren't just fighting for an acquittal. They're fighting for a jury that can set aside everything they know. Here's what most people don't realize, even with his murder convictions overturned, Alex Murdaugh is not free. He is serving 27 years in state prison for financial crimes. He is serving 40 years in federal prison for the same. He will not see the outside of a cell for decades, even if he is acquitted of murder. He will die in prison. The Murdaugh dynasty is over. The name that defined South Carolina law for a century is now synonymous with murder, theft, and betrayal. Buster Murdaugh, Alex's surviving son, lives alone now in what remains of the family's once vast holdings. He has no mother. No brother. No father who isn't behind bars. 4 people he loved are either dead or serving life sentences. He is the last Murdaugh standing. The hunting estate at Moselle was sold to a developer. The law firm PMPD removed the Murdaugh name from its letterhead, a century of legal history erased with a single edit. The 1,400 acres where Maggie and Paul were killed now belong to strangers. And the question remains. Did Alex Murdaugh kill his wife and son? I don't know the answer to that question. And neither do you. But here's what I know, a jury said yes. And then the highest court in South Carolina said the trial wasn't fair. That's the part I've been thinking about by this fire. Not whether he's guilty, but whether we'll ever know for sure. Because in America, you're supposed to get a fair trial. And if you don't, the system has to try again. Even if you're Alex Murdaugh. The retrial starts in April 2027. Almost exactly 2 years from the date the Supreme Court overturned his conviction. By then, Alex Murdaugh will have spent 6 years in prison. His wife and son will have been dead for almost 6. The money he stole is gone. His reputation is ash. His name is a curse. His surviving son Buster will have to testify, or choose not to. The children of Gloria Satterfield will watch from the gallery, knowing their mother's killer was never charged. The Beach family will wait for a verdict that might finally give them closure, or open wounds that never healed. Whatever happens in that courtroom, one thing is already true: the Murdaugh dynasty is dead. It died on June 7, 2021, in a kennel on Moselle Road, with 2 gunshots that ended 100 years of power. The unanswered question, the one that will keep this story alive for years, is simple. Did he do it? Or did a dynasty fall because of a corrupt clerk, a flawed trial, and a system that might have convicted an innocent man? I'm the Beard. Thank you for listening. If you want more stories about power, betrayal, and the lines people cross, subscribe. Hit the bell. And I'll see you at the next campfire.